There is a realm of the Spirit where time is not counted by clocks, but by moments of authority. And one of the most sensitive moments in a believer's life is the midnight hour. Midnight is not just the absence of daylight, it is a spiritual junction where endings and beginnings often meet. Many people sleep through moments when decisions concerning their progress, peace, and future are being negotiated in the unseen. This is why wisdom teaches us not merely to sleep, but to sleep under spiritual covering. Prayer is not only effective when the lips are moving. There is a kind of prayer that is programmed with faith and understanding, released intentionally, calm, and allowed to keep speaking even when the body rests. When you engage such prayer at midnight, you are declaring that your spirit will not be passive while your body sleeps. You are aligning your night season with divine authority. The truth is that battles do not always announce themselves. Many spiritual conflicts happen quietly, targeting consistency, clarity, and direction. That is why a believer must learn how to hand over the night to God deliberately. When prayer is released before sleep, it becomes like a watchman standing guard over your mind, your home, and your destiny. You are not fighting in anxiety. You are resting in confidence while heaven enforces your victory. As you sleep, let faith-filled words rise like incense. Let declarations of light, peace, and preservation surround you. Declare that no negative voice will speak louder than the voice of God concerning your life. Declare that every plan contrary to your advancement collapses before it takes form. This is not noise, that this is authority expressed with calm assurance. There is also a deep rest that comes when you understand divine security. You are not staying awake out of fear. You are sleeping because you trust the one who never sleeps. Prayer at midnight is not about struggling through the night, but about transferring responsibility to God and resting in His ability to keep you. When this becomes a nightly practice, something powerful happens. Your spirit becomes trained, your nights become peaceful, and your days begin to reflect the victories won in silence. You wake up strengthened, directed, and conscious that you are not alone in life's journey. This is the power of intentional midnight prayer. A quiet weapon that works while you sleep and ensures that every night becomes a platform for divine intervention. 1. Midnight is more than a point on the clock. It represents a spiritual threshold where transitions quietly take place. Across the ages, the midnight hour has been recognized as a moment when cycles close and new ones begin. When what has been delayed confronts resolution, and when hidden things are exposed or rearranged. In the realm of the Spirit, this hour carries a weight that is not felt during the noise of the day. It is a time of stillness when distractions fade and the soul becomes more receptive to spiritual activity. Whether one is conscious of it or not, during midnight, the atmosphere is often described as neutral yet highly sensitive, making it a watch hour where destinies are reviewed. It is as though life pauses just long enough for evaluations to occur. Patterns that have followed a person for years can be confronted at this hour. There are decisions that shape the next phase of life are often influenced in unseen ways. This is why many significant turnarounds in scripture and personal testimonies are connected to the night season, especially the deep hours when human strength is at rest. Midnight also symbolizes the end of human effort and the beginning of divine intervention. When the day has exhausted its options and activity ceases, the spirit realm remains fully active. Come. This contrast reveals why midnight is a strategic moment for spiritual engagement. It is not that darkness itself has power, but that the quiet allows spiritual forces to operate without interference. For the believer, understanding this mystery transforms midnight from a vulnerable period into an opportunity for alignment and authority. At this hour, the inner man becomes more influential than the physical senses. Dreams, impressions, and spiritual communications are more easily received. And this makes midnight a gate through which either light or confusion can pass. Come, what is allowed to dominate this moment often determines the tone of the coming day or even an entire season. Come. Without awareness, one may unknowingly permit fear, heaviness, or unresolved thoughts to take root during this time. Recognizing midnight as a spiritual junction shifts one's posture from passive sleep to conscious surrender. It becomes a moment where life is intentionally placed under divine oversight. Come, instead of being a time where things happen to you, it becomes a time where outcomes are positioned in your favor. Come, this understanding brings peace rather than anxiety, because it replaces ignorance with confidence and transforms the night from a period of uncertainty into a sacred space where direction, protection, and destiny can be quietly yet powerfully influenced too. There is a dimension of prayer that goes beyond physical alertness and verbal expression. Come, a dimension where words released in faith continue to operate even when the body is asleep. Come, this reveals that prayer is not powered by human consciousness alone, but by spiritual authority. When prayer is uttered with understanding and alignment, it becomes a living expression that does not expire when the lips stop moving. It carries intention, assignment, and direction, and once released, it keeps working because it is sustained by faith and not by effort. The spirit of a person does not sleep the way the body does, while the physical senses rest. The inner man remains active and responsive to spiritual activity. This is why prayers made with depth before sleep can continue to speak on behalf of a person throughout the night. Such prayer that becomes like a legal instruction in the realm of the spirit, establishing boundaries, releasing protection, and enforcing divine order even when the mind is no longer consciously engaged. This kind of prayer requires clarity and precision. It is not emotional speaking or rushed words born out of fear. It is intentional communication that hands over the night to God with confidence. When a believer prays this way, come, they are not hoping something happens. They are authorizing heaven to remain involved while they rest. The prayer carries the authority of trust, acknowledging that God is more active than human awareness and more vigilant than human strength. As the body sleeps, the environment remains spiritually active. Thoughts, impressions, and influences attempt to interact with the soul. And this is where ongoing prayer becomes essential. A prayer that continues to speak creates a spiritual atmosphere that filters what is allowed access. It guards the heart from unnecessary heaviness, shields the mind from intrusive thoughts, and ensures that rest is not disrupted by spiritual unrest. The believer sleeps, but the prayer stands watch. This understanding removes anxiety from night seasons. Instead of struggling to stay awake out of fear or pressure, the believer learns to rest in spiritual intelligence. They understand that prayer is not about constant speaking, but about releasing something that remains effective. It is similar to planting a seed that continues to grow underground long after it is buried. The power is not in watching it grow, but in knowing it has been properly planted. Over time, Come, this practice trains the spirit to function independently of physical awareness. The believer begins to wake with clarity, peace and strength, often without knowing exactly what was addressed during the night. This is the evidence of prayer that worked in silence, prayer that spoke without interruption, and prayer that stood in the gap while the body enjoyed rest under divine supervision. 3. Spiritual battles are real, and they often happen quietly, unnoticed by the human eye. While the day is filled with activity, conversation, and visible challenges, many conflicts occur in the unseen realm where decisions about progress, protection, and purpose are being influenced. These battles are not always dramatic. They are subtle, targeting the mind, the emotions, and even the flow of destiny without awareness and intentional spiritual intervention. These quiet conflicts can shape the outcomes of days, months, and even years. At night, especially during the deep hours of sleep, these spiritual battles intensify. Darkness itself is not powerful, but the stillness of the hour allows the forces of disruption to operate more freely if no protection is in place. This is why prayer at night is strategic. There it positions the believer in alignment with divine authority while the world sleeps. By releasing prayer with understanding, one becomes an active participant in these unseen confrontations, not a passive victim of circumstances. The act of praying transforms the night into a place of victory rather than vulnerability. These battles are often fought over the very things that matter most: peace of mind, clarity of thought, family protection, and fulfillment of divine purpose. Left unattended, unresolved spiritual tension can manifest as confusion, fear, anxiety, or repeated obstacles in daily life. Midnight or late night prayer functions as a shield, creating a spiritual environment that resists intrusion and enforces boundaries. It is not about struggling against the darkness, but about releasing authority over it so that the spiritual order reflects the will of the divine rather than the schemes of opposition. Faith-filled prayer plays a critical role in this context. When declarations are made with conviction, they carry power into the spiritual realm, establishing positions of defense and influence. Words spoken with authority, even in silence while asleep, have the capacity to enforce divine plans and cancel out contrary agendas. This is the reason why disciplined night prayers are not merely a routine. They are a strategic deployment of spiritual resources, an investment that yields protection and progress. Understanding the nature of these silent battles transforms the believer's approach to the night. Sleep is no longer a vulnerable pause, but a period of active engagement through prayer. The body rests, but the spirit is vigilant, standing guard over destiny. Over time, this practice strengthens spiritual discernment, enhances inner peace, and ensures that victories are won even before the day begins. Nightly prayer is, therefore, not optional. It is a vital tool for anyone seeking to navigate life with resilience, purpose, and divine alignment. 4. Faith-filled declarations are not just words, they are instruments of authority that shape reality in the spiritual realm. When a believer speaks with faith, they are not merely expressing hope or desire, they are activating divine principles and aligning themselves with the power that governs all outcomes. This is especially significant at night when the human mind is less active. But the spiritual atmosphere is highly responsive. Declarations spoken with clarity, confidence, and understanding do not depend on the immediate results. their impact continues as long as they are grounded in trust and spiritual insight. They're the essence of a faith-filled declaration lies in its certainty. It is not tentative or wishful. There is a firm statement of what is already true in the unseen realm. When a believer declares protection, progress, peace, calm, or divine favor over their life, it functions like a spiritual mandate. Come. These words carry weight because they are expressions of alignment with the divine will, and they penetrate the spiritual atmosphere to influence circumstances that are yet to manifest. Over time, consistent declarations become a pattern of spiritual authority that continually shapes reality, even while the individual sleeps. At night, faith-filled declarations take on an added dimension, that the physical senses are resting and the mind is less preoccupied with distractions, which makes the spirit more receptive to these words. It is as if the words issued in faith become sentinels that patrol the environment of the soul, ensuring that nothing contrary to the believer's destinies is allowed to take root. Every word of trust, every confident affirmation of divine order becomes a barrier against confusion, fear, and opposition, while simultaneously establishing a channel for blessings and guidance to flow. Consistency amplifies this effect. When declarations are repeated nightly, they train the spirit to remain active and vigilant, even when the body is not. This practice builds spiritual momentum as the words become embedded in the rhythm of life, reinforcing protection, provision, and alignment with divine purpose. It is a reminder that victory is not a one-time event, but a sustained position that is maintained through intentional spiritual engagement. Faith-filled declarations are therefore far more than motivational statements. They are a powerful form of spiritual stewardship. They allow the believer to enforce divine will, claim protection, and participate actively in shaping life circumstances. When these declarations are intentionally practiced each night, that they establish a spiritual authority that safeguards rest, strengthens faith, and ensures that the unseen realm is harmonized with the visible reality of peace, progress, and divine favor. 5. Resting in divine security during the night is not simply about physical sleep. It is a spiritual posture of trust that releases control to a higher power while maintaining authority over one's circumstances. Many people approach the night with anxiety, fear, or unresolved tension, believing that sleep is a time of vulnerability. Yet, when the night is intentionally entrusted to divine oversight through prayer and awareness, it transforms into a period of protection and strategic spiritual engagement. This rest is not passive. It is active in faith, acknowledging that while the body sleeps, the spirit remains connected to divine provision and safeguarding. That divine security works on the principle that the unseen realm continues to operate on behalf of those who align with it. When one releases the night into this realm, it creates an environment where opposing forces cannot gain advantage. Their thoughts of fear, worry, or doubt that often arise during quiet hours are filtered by the authority of prayer, declarations, and faith. The believer rests confidently, knowing that their spiritual covering is intact and that the events of the night are subject to divine orchestration rather than random chance. This awareness changes sleep from a vulnerable pause into a protected and strategic time. Understanding divine security also requires recognizing that rest and activity are not mutually exclusive in the spiritual sense. While the body is inactive, the spirit can continue to enforce victory, protection, and guidance. This means that sleep is not a period of helplessness, but a time where spiritual authority is quietly exercised. The power of faith ensures that prayers, previously spoken declarations made, and intentions set continue to operate and shape circumstances even as the conscious mind rests. This trust allows the believer to sleep without anxiety because they know that what they have authorized through prayer remains active. Furthermore, resting in divine security builds resilience over time. Nights that are surrendered to divine protection strengthen the spirit, calm the mind, and restore energy, both physically and spiritually. The believer learns to distinguish between natural fatigue and spiritual vulnerability, understanding that the real battles are not in the body, but in the realm of influence and authority. By consistently practicing this approach, sleep becomes not just recovery for the body, but a platform for ongoing spiritual alignment, ensuring that each day begins with reinforced protection, clarity, and purpose. Ultimately, the resting in divine security transforms the night into a period of empowerment rather than fear. It cultivates peace, strengthens faith, and trains the spirit to remain vigilant and effective even while the body sleeps, demonstrating that true rest is inseparable from spiritual authority and divine oversight. 6. Consistency in night prayers is a powerful tool for establishing long-term spiritual stability and resilience. It is not enough to pray occasionally or only when difficulties arise. The night, especially the hours of deep rest, is a season that requires intentional, repeated engagement. When a believer develops the habit of praying every night before or during sleep, they are not merely creating a routine. They're building a spiritual rhythm that positions them in alignment with divine authority and protection continuously. This consistency strengthens the connection between the conscious life of faith and the unseen operations of the Spirit, making prayer an ongoing force rather than a one-time effort. The impact of regular night prayers is cumulative. Each session of prayer, declaration, or spiritual engagement layers authority over the individual's life, creating a shield against confusion, fear, and opposition. Spiritual forces are influenced not just by the intensity of one prayer, but by the discipline of persistent action. The night becomes a training ground for the spirit, teaching it to remain alert, active, and responsive even while the body rests. This consistency also reinforces faith because repeated practice demonstrates trust in divine oversight, showing that the believer is not dependent on circumstances, but on a continual spiritual connection. Moreover, consistent night prayers establish a protective rhythm that prepares the individual for the coming day. The hours of sleep are often when unresolved conflicts or potential attacks could find entry points. But a disciplined practice of prayer ensures that these periods are covered. Regular prayers create a spiritual environment where blessings, guidance, and divine alignment are continuously maintained, and where obstacles are mitigated before they manifest. This consistency not only strengthens defense, but also positions the believer to receive opportunities, insights, and interventions that might otherwise be missed during passive rest. Another key aspect of consistency is the internal training it provides. By engaging in night prayers daily, the believer's spirit becomes naturally attuned to spiritual realities. Sensitivity to guidance, discernment of influence, and alignment with divine will are cultivated, creating stability that persists even in challenging times. Over time, This habitual engagement transforms the believer's nights into a sacred time, a period where growth, protection, calm, and clarity are reinforced, and where the spirit learns to act independently and confidently. Ultimately, consistency in night prayers ensures that spiritual stability is not accidental but intentional. It develops a life pattern where rest is accompanied by authority. Sleep becomes a vehicle for progress, and faith is continuously exercised. This practice positions the believer to live each day with clarity, protection, and the confidence that their nights are not wasted but actively contributing to their victory, purpose, and divine alignment. In conclusion, the practice of intentional midnight prayer is not simply a nightly ritual. It is a strategic engagement with the unseen realm that shapes destiny, enforces divine protection, and secures spiritual authority. By understanding the significance of midnight, releasing prayers that continue to operate while you sleep, confronting silent spiritual battles, making faith-filled declarations, resting confidently in divine security, and committing to consistent night prayers, a believer positions themselves for victory, peace, and alignment with purpose. The night is transformed from a passive period of vulnerability into a dynamic season of intervention, guidance, and empowerment when embraced consistently. This practice cultivates resilience, trains the spirit, strengthens faith, and ensures that every night becomes a platform for ongoing divine influence, ultimately enabling the believer to wake each day refreshed, fortified, and ready to walk in the fullness of their destiny.